sure everyone can get it, squeeze in here. See if I can get everyone to gather around the mural here. If I can get you guys to step a little bit further forward here, we still got some people trying to get in here. All right. So, for thousands of years, this land here in Santa Cruz was owned by the Ohlone Indians. Now, the Ohlone Indians, the term Ohlone is a modern day term. They had a whole bunch of different names. A lot of them have been lost. But we call them collectively now the Ohlone people. It was actually comprised of a bunch of little tiny tribes or tribelets. Many of them whom had similar languages. There was a lot of variation. But this mural here gives you an idea of what Ohlone life was like. Then something happened. And this suddenly became New Spain. And this way of life was about to change. Now, the Ohlone were invited to come live at the mission. They were not forced. It was an invitation. The Spanish had come. They had brought tremendous amounts of new things. They brought everything from horses. They brought everything from cattle, metal, glass, steel, guns, all of that. And they had started building this mission up here. And they invited the Ohlone to come and live with them and become new Spanish citizens. Once that started happening, life in the Ohlone villages started becoming tougher and tougher. First of all, they started losing people to the mission. And every job in an Ohlone village was very important. So once they started losing some of their hunters who'd gone to live at the mission, suddenly it was tougher to get food. Once they lost some of their basket weavers, it was suddenly a lot tougher to get the baskets they needed. And tribal life started becoming more and more difficult. The other thing that was going on is at the height of this mission, there were over 2,400 cattle. Thousands of pigs, thousands of sheep. You can imagine what all those animals were doing to the native animals that were around here, all the deer and the rabbits that the Ohlone required, to get their food. They started disappearing. All the tule grass started getting trampled. And after a while, it became what we call a time of very little choice. Tribal life simply was no longer sustainable. They did not have the resources anymore that they needed to survive as a tribe. And so eventually, everybody from this area did end up and go and start living at the mission. And life changed very significantly from this to what we'll be talking about later. Now, the first attempt to build the mission was actually not up here on the hill. This mission was founded in 1791. And the first building they started building was down on the banks of the San Lorenzo River. Can anyone here guess what might have happened to that first building? What do you think?
Floods.
Exactly. Rivers flood. Now, adobe is an amazing building material, but it does have an enemy, and that is water. If adobe gets wet, it literally turns right back into mud. So the flooding of the first building didn't turn out too well. So then they looked up here at this wonderful Mission Hill, and they said, hey, let's build the buildings up there. Well, the first couple attempts also didn't meet with success. They used foundation stones that are about the size of your fist. There's a lot of water in this ground here. And what they think happened was that water was actually able to seep up through those foundation stones, get to the adobe bricks, and that building collapsed. We actually know this because we have some of the original foundations of one of those original buildings that, as you can see if you come over here, still exists. Now I want you guys to compare these foundation stones, the ones you can see in the wall there. We are here in this room, and there was an original building that ran up this way that fell down. These stones, about the size of your fist, those stones, about like that. This mission had a lot of problems. That's why it was known as the hard luck mission. There was a lot of trial and error. Adobe, however, can do some amazing things that you just can't do in a normal building. Such as at one point, the doorway was right here. And at some point later in the building's history, they decided they'd rather have the doorway over there. So, you know what they did? They just took a knife, stuck it in the wall, cut out the bricks, and moved them from there to here. Not something you can do in a typical home. But with adobe, you can. Adobe's also amazing because it has these really thick walls, so the insulation is tremendous. And if it's really hot outside, it will stay relatively cool in here. If it's really, cold outside, it'll actually stay pretty warm in here. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what life was like once the Ohlone Indians came to live here at the mission. For that, I'm going to ask everyone to gather up in the next room, kind of around the model there so that everybody can see. Yes, that was definitely a Spanish technology.
Oh, that's a Spanish technology?